Hello. Welcome to our demo. It's 2020. And while we miss you, and we can't physically be there to let you hold, touch, and caress our fine pottery, we hope that this will bring you some entertainment and some knowledge and understanding about the passion we have and the love we put into creating every wonderful and unique piece of art that we present. This demonstration is just one piece that we do, a mandala. Some of you might be familiar with what that is, and if you're not, well, I'm sure you'll recognize what we're going for. There's a lot of them out there. But each one is just as unique and beautiful as you are. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope that my voice is soothing and calming in this trying time. So please, enjoy this video in celebration of our annual Texas Clay Festival, formerly located at Green, Texas, currently for the year 2020, located on the wonderful World Wide Web. Enjoy. Hey, seriously though, really excited to have you here today. We are going to take you through a demonstration on how we do mandala pieces. Today you'll see a quick demonstration on the design process and the preparation and kind of how we do all of our underglaze effects and illustration on one of our larger pieces. This is a large platter, kind of. It's more of like a shallow bowl. I'm not sure what you'd want to call it, but honestly, pottery is whatever you want it to be. So I love it, and I think it's going to turn out really wonderful. We're going to have the finished piece available on our website in celebration of the Texas Clay Festival. So after you view the video, if you want to pop over, the people over there at Texas Clay have been doing an amazing job promoting this event online. We want to thank everybody who's participating this year, and thank you for letting us join you again. We're a little out of our wheelhouse with doing this video stuff, but we hope that this is acceptable, and we hope that you enjoy the content we're about to present you. So without further ado, and enjoy learning a little bit more about how we design some of our favorite pottery. So you can see here, so this piece has already been wheel thrown. It's already been trimmed. And after the piece is what we call bone dry, or its greenware state. It is just dried mud. And we take these, you just go to H-E-B, Walmart, Sam's Club, you can get those green scrubby pads. And we just take it and we gently clean off any of the throwing lines or little, leftover clay bits from the trimming, and smooth off the surface. Because we work with underglaze, spraying it with an airbrush, which we'll see here in just a short minute, the surface needs to be smooth. It's our canvas. So we use it to create these wonderful designs. And so we have an air hose, so I was blowing off some of that stuff. So this is our spray booth, pardon me. And we airbrush our underglazes. So this right here is Amico's Amethyst Velvet Underglaze. The next color is going to be Turquoise, which is actually a house milled mix. And then we have commercially made Chartreuse, which we tint with a little bit of dark green because we want it to be a little more limey. And then also a commercial underglaze, again, Amico orange, bright orange, and it's mixed with a little bit of flame orange, so it kind of dulls down that brightness but still gives it a really nice dominance on the piece. So There's a lot of wheels that we use to basically do the hard work for us. So here I've tap centered the piece onto a little kick wheel that we have in the back, and I'm just using a number 2 pencil to let the wheel spin around, and I'm holding that pencil against my cheek for stability, and letting the wheel create these perfect circles so I can lay out the grid. So what I'm doing right now is creating all of my guidelines for making the pot design. So after you have the circles, I kind of eyeball the center. We have this like really bendy wire. Don't know what it's from. I'm sure it's an old recycled piece, as many tools in our pottery studio are. You don't have to buy expensive tools to get the right thing for the right job, honestly. So anyway, there's an old postcard. We line it up in the middle, and it gives us that perfect 90-degree angle. So now I've created, the circles. And now we've created the lines, so we've got it quadranted out into 4 quarters. And I'm going to break it down even further. So this is a little round dial that we have with all different types of cutout radial lines. And there's a little cut in the middle. So it's really cool because you can lay it and you line up that little cross in the middle of the circle. And then you line it up with the edges all around. And it can tell me where I can divide it up. So I get even divisions and even little pieces of the pie, as it were. And then we'll grab that wiggly metal tool again and go ahead and use that to create those final lines. And then once I do this, it'll come off the wheel, and we will go over to coffee, you guys, sorry. I would go over and start working on the design. Now, I did not have a design already sketched out or anything. I personally really enjoy the freedom of just pulling shapes and creating something kind of on a whim, and you'll see that here. So once we get to this point, I've got all of my guidelines, and I'm gonna put this on like a little lazy Susan. And you can either use a towel, or what I have is like a little piece of foam, and that just protects the piece from any scratches, or like as I'm applying pressure to the piece for carving or design work, it kind of gives it a little give. So using those guidelines, I'm going to take my pencil, which I didn't mention this earlier, but it's important that your pencil isn't too sharp. So you can see it's a regular number 2 pencil, and the tip's a bit dull. So that's important because if the tip is too sharp, it'll gouge into your underglaze, which can, leave marks. So if you're not sure, like say you change your mind later on, you're not going to want that gouged out of the surface, because then, you can't really fix it. So these are some of the shapes that we use. It's just art foam, and we've just cut out some, unique shapes, some standard circles, squares, triangles, anything like that. And because it's art foam, it's real flexible, and it doesn't scratch the surface of the pot. So it creates a really nice, safe zone. Now, if you don't have art foam, you can use a paper. So I don't recommend like something flimsy like computer paper, but like we use old postcards and things like that. It adds a nice structural stability, so you don't have to worry about your shape warping as you're trying to trace it. However, you do need to be careful when putting it on the surface if you've already applied underglaze, because just like the pencil, it can scratch your underglaze and damage that work. So, because you got to remember, we're working on greenware, and underglaze is just sprayed on top. So really the whole thing is just just dry clay. So there's not really a way to go back. You could paint it a little bit, but you're going to see that mark because it's a different application than the airbrushing. So we're just going to go through a time lapse a little bit of me laying out the design, and I'm using again all those different shapes. So I did not have a sketch in mind. I really didn't doodle anything. So a lot of what's cut out in this is me like putting random shapes on the form, and then like sitting back and looking at it and going, yeah, I like that, or ooh, no, like that's cool, let's keep doing that. I've been doing these long enough that I don't really have a lot of those. Like I already kind of in my mind have an idea of what I want, because I've seen enough mandalas. I do look at a lot of pictures of them. I have a Pinterest board, and we have several books in our studio that are really good reference books. I cannot stress enough, if you don't have art books, even if you're not looking, to find techniques and stuff, just get some picture books. They're amazing for inspiration. And sometimes, we honestly, one of my favorite ones is a book full of crop circles. And it's just pictures of crop circles over the years. And it is the coolest thing to look at. For inspiration on mandalas or just any sort of, funky, kind of generic design, but then you can spice it up with whatever you want. So once you get that design out, what's really cool is taking this part. So the detail brush is my favorite. I have it set to a pretty thin nozzle point, and what's in there is just black velvet underglaze from Amico. And there are two different ways that we'll do our stencil design for highlighting those shapes. So as you can see, there's a lot of lines, and that number 2 pencil, by the way, will burn out in the firing. It doesn't come through after it's been bisqued. It burns completely out, which is really neat. So none of those little marking lines are going to be visible in the finished product. So anyway, I am going to show you here. So what I'm doing is laying down, again, those foamy circles that I used, actually one of them earlier in that time lapse as my demonstration piece. So I'm weighing it down with some random nuts and bolts, nothing too big, nothing too heavy, but it's going to hold it down while I airbrush that surface. And we're going to take that airbrush here and just gently go around the edges. And this will highlight the piece. And I'm going to be actually spraying kind of directly, so you've got the back and the stencil itself. I'm actually spraying right where that edge is, so I get an overlap of both. So the line isn't too thick, and it creates a really nice faded edge. So we're going to get a sharp edge on this one. So a little time lapse there, a little bit of a rotation on that. So I've got this kind of quadranted out now, and the detail brushing is going along. So one of the other ways, which is my personal favorite, is just freehanding it. And again, a lot of practice. If you want to try this, it's a lot of fun. Just don't get too mad at yourself. You're probably going to be a little shaky at first. And you kind of have to move fast when you do this because you can get puddling very easily. So I'm just kind of freehanding the form and going at it just to get those shapes on that one. And I'll do that a few times on here, but you can see the wonderful difference between using the stencil base to kind of cover up part of that spray, and then not using it to get that free-handed, real feathered spray. And that's going to give us a really cool contrasting effect on the final piece. And varying that up on your surface, if you decide you want to try this yourself, it can really be a lot of fun. And you can do the whole thing one way or the whole thing the other way, with or without those stencil guides. It's up to you, but I personally have really started enjoying mixing the two. I think it adds a really nice rhythm and variation to the design elements later on. So, my favorite part. So personally, in my own art, I love carving my surfaces. So I have the carving tool, and then you always want like a soft brush. So when you're carving into already dry clay, so the greenware, it's really good to have a nice tool, either a really good pointy tool. We use these ball-ended tools. You can get them online or from any ceramic supply store, or you can actually go to like Sally Hansen or like into the section of like nail polish stuff, and it's actually really cheap to get them as like a little they're tools used for like doing polka dots on your fingernails. I don't do my nails, so I don't use it for that, but it makes a really good tool for this. So what I'm doing now is just, kind of going through, and since my clay is unfired, our clay body is actually white. So I'm creating another line inside or on the edge of those detailed lines. So that way they can pop out and be a little more predominant on the surface. And those lines, of course, are going to fire white. So after you get all of that carved out, whatever designs you want, you don't have to follow every line. You dust it off. So these are our underglazes in little squeezy bottles, and so we get them online. You can also get them at Hobby Lobby. They're a little different there, but they have these wonderful little metal tips, and they're good for linking lots of dots. And they're also really good for making lines and stripes. So we do these little, drips and draws with them. So that's how we do a lot of our dotting and striping. I'm going to go through here, And this is, again, another time lapse. A piece like this has thousands and thousands of dots, and this is probably the longest one that it takes. When we do these larger pieces, it takes a long time because you got to go through, and this part took me 2 days, again, working in between other projects, to finish off this part. So my favorite part is adding designs within the design. So here you can see that I'm kind of following some of those earlier sketches, and I'm pulling out another design within it. So it's not just me following the lines of the things that I've either used the detail brush to outline or taken that carving tool and carved out a wide outline from. I'm actually going in and adding an additional kind of dimension to it, and it really adds this wonderful back and forth and depth to your piece if you're going to go this kind of route. Again, just like with creating the design, the only thing I really plan out is what color's on the background. So of course the background on this is purple in the middle to turquoise to chartreuse to bright orange at the edge. So that's the only thing I'm really taking into consideration as I'm putting down my dots and stripes. Because I don't want to put turquoise on top of turquoise because it's probably going to fade out. But I might put turquoise right up against the edge of the other turquoise because then it'll create this really cool like fade. So it adds this element to it that's just really, again, deep and wonderfully just, I love colors. And like I said, you know, this is so much fun. If you've never worked with underglazes before, there's wonderful underglazes. We use pretty much almost exclusively Amico velvet underglazes, and occasionally, you know, we'll pop in there with a Mako underglaze. But we also make our own glazes in house. After all the dotting and striping is done, we do a bit of black on the edge to finish off the piece, and do that on the back side as well. So all of our pieces, of course, have our RA Pottery stamp for our shop here, and then all of us who work on specialty pieces, we also sign our work. So if you see one that says KD, that's my initials. So of course this piece is signed and dated because we can't forget. Oh, wonderful 2020. But yeah, so this piece is going to go into the bisque as we speak right now. It's still in production. So it'll go for 2 firings, first for bisque, second for glaze. And when it's all done, we are going to have it up on the website for Texas Clay Festival. So if you want to see this work finished, be sure to pop over to our website and check that out. Also, don't forget to peruse all the artists and videos available on Texas Clay Fest's website. The show might not be in person this year, but oh, they've done such an amazing job. We're super excited to have this show online this year and available to everyone. Again, want to thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about our work, and hopefully, you know, you come by and check out the finished product on our website. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Thank you so very, very much for joining me today. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and while we can't be there in person, this is just a wonderful way of us connecting with you during this time, and we want to thank you so very much for all your support, and from the very bottom of our hearts, we love you and we appreciate all that you do for us as artists. So, you know, you might not be able to get out there and you know, get in all sorts of trouble in person, but the internet is a world of its own. So thank you for coming to our little corner of it today and joining me for a little bit of insight into creating some ceramic art. Thank you again so very much. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day, rest of the weekend, hopefully a rest of the year, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you all in person again sometime soon. So again, thank you. Love y'all. We'll see you next time.